All right, joining us now is Sheriff Richard Mack, and he has a Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, that is CSPOA.org. And we got a lot of things to talk about. There's a very interesting case back and forth, because we always see all this catch and release stuff that's happening with repeat offenders. And there's a case that is happening in Vegas, which I think is very fascinating. We're also going to talk to Sheriff Mack about the shooting and what happened to the security at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that just happened over the weekend. So joining us now is Sheriff Mack. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Well, thanks for having me, David. It's always a pleasure to be with you. You and I go way back.
Oh, yeah, we do. But you know, all that time, I never realized until I was doing research for this interview that when you won in the Supreme Court, and of course, Sheriff Mack was the first sheriff to have to challenge a law to the Supreme Court, because he was fighting for both the 10th Amendment as well as the Second Amendment. He won. And I never realized before that there was a series of 5 Brady Bills. They were going to release them once a year, like a sequel, a bad sequel. And so basically, you stop the empire from striking back. They put those on hold, I guess, until a better time because of the win that you had in the Supreme Court. That's very important.
Yeah, it was amazing. I worked closely with the NRA on this case, and then also Gun Owners of America. And Gun Owners of America was actually the one that discovered that there were 5 Brady Bills to be scheduled one year after another until the Second Amendment was completely gutted, if not completely destroyed.
Wow. I really like Gun Owners of America. I have a long history with Larry Pratt. That goes back many years. Totally. His son is now there now, but they have been solid and uncompromising. I mean, they're not willing to sign on to a bad bill just so they can say they've got a victory.
Exactly. And you know what you're going to get. If as all the gun rights organizations nationally say, that the Second Amendment is about freedom. If it's about freedom, then don't compromise, because compromising freedom is an absolute sin.
Yes.
It's going the other way. It's helping the other side.
That's right. Yeah, we never want to compromise our liberty for the promise of security, because that promise is always broken. That's what history has shown. We have a really interesting case that's developing in Las Vegas. You've got a guy who he's 36 years old. He's had 35 arrests. So I looked at that. I laughed at Sheriff Mack because I thought, well, this guy's gotten arrested every year since he was 2 years old. So I guess we could say he's a career criminal. But and they're not just petty things either. I mean, he's got manslaughter charges against him and a lot of issues like that. And so you had a situation, and I wanted to talk about this because it raises a couple of interesting points. We see, a lot of times we see arrests for immigration, and they want to say, look, this guy's got a long rap sheet. And he did this serious crime and that serious crime. And I'm thinking, why is he on the streets then, right? Who released this guy, right? Why is he even, I mean, you'd look at this and think, well, they're going to go around the prisons and they're going to deport these people who've got this long rap sheet, and it might be child rape or murder or something like that, but they're out on the street. And so how does that happen? How do you have an illegal immigrant who comes in and commits these serious crimes, and then they're turned out on the street? Well, here's a good example of this. And so you got this guy who's a repeat offender. He's got a lot of arrests, and there is a back and forth with him over this. It's called a justice court. What kind of a court is that in Vegas? Is that like a little district court or something like that, or justice of the, what kind of a court is that?
I'm pretty sure it's the same in Arizona as the Superior Court. So I think that's it, because justice court has to be a higher one up, or it's not a justice of the peace court.
Right. That's why I was asking. It's not like is this a justice of the peace? Just go marry somebody and leave us alone.
Right. Exactly.
But he's hell bent for some reason on letting this guy out under electronic monitoring system. And under state law, this is not a case of a sheriff. The sheriff got into an argument with this, or legal argument, we should say. I mean, they weren't yelling at each other, but he wanted this repeat offender released with electronic monitoring, and the sheriff said, no, we've looked at it. He's too dangerous to do this. And actually, and then the judge got upset, threatened contempt on him, and then they appealed it to the state Supreme Court. And it turns out that there is a law that says that the sheriff has the ability to make that determination if they think the individual is too dangerous, because they have to administer this program. Tell us a bit more about that, some of the details.
Well, that's Sheriff Kevin McMahill in Las Vegas, and this is one of the greatest examples of what sheriff's offices should be nationwide. Not just because of what he did here, but way back. I don't even know when it started, but it was way back, maybe 100 years ago, that the Clark County Sheriff was in charge of Las Vegas Metro Police.
Mm-hmm.
And so Las Vegas Metro is Clark County Sheriff's Office. And that's how it should be nationwide.
Yeah.
And why? Because the sheriff is elected.
That's
and
right.
the people must know that they can depend on local law enforcement to answer to them instead of a city council committee or the town manager. The town manager is not the boss of the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
The boss of the sheriff is we the people, his constituents, the voters. And so we the people are in charge of this government. As Abraham Lincoln said, we the people are the rightful owners and masters of the courts and Congress. And not to pervert the Constitution, but to pervert those who would pervert the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's our job, making sure that they're doing it right. As far as Sheriff McMahill, I met with him a couple of years ago at his request. We met at a funeral for another sheriff in Nevada, and we became pretty good friends. And I kept in touch with him, and I told him, hey, I want to stop by and make sure that you're familiar with my Supreme Court case. And this is it, David, as you're probably familiar with this. I put together this pamphlet that is a review of the highlights of the case.
Mm-hmm.
Every American should have this in their pocket, in their car, in their home. Show it to your kids. But the most important thing you could do with this is they're 3 for $5, okay? They're very inexpensive. But you should be getting dozens of these and passing them around to your city councils, your county commissioners, your county manager, your county attorney, and especially your sheriff, if he doesn't already have this. And Sheriff McMahill is a great example. Once you show people the truth, they do something about it. And so here, Sheriff McMahill is now having the courage and the creativity and the wherewithal to tell judges, we're not going to do this catch and release crap anymore with felons who have hurt other people, who are going to continue their recidivism.
Mm-hmm.
And this, you asked the question, why would they do this? A very good question to ask these judges. Why do you put hardened criminals, career criminals, back on the streets, and what McMahill told them, to do more harm to the American people and to law-abiding citizens?
I agree. Yeah, that's
Leave
why I
it
asked.
alone.
That's why I asked what kind of court this is. Are these? Is this an elected or an appointed judge?
Pretty sure it's elected.
Well, see, that's the key. You know, when we talk about everything that's happening, and a lot of us don't like the way the country is going, and I think the most important thing, and where you're going to have the most effect, is going to be at the local level. In situations like voting for judges or voting for sheriffs or whatever, it's difficult to get information about them, however. And so that is part of the problem. And I got to say, I'm as guilty as anybody else. It's hard for me to find information locally. I can get all kinds of detailed information about what's happening nationally, globally, that type of stuff, but it's difficult to get that information locally. Part of it is that we've really kind of lost our local reporting because of economic reasons and consolidation of media. So there's not much reporting that's happening there, but it's difficult for us to get that information. But that's where it really makes a big difference. Now, in this particular case, I had some other questions I thought were kind of strange because this guy, even though there's this back and forth between the judge and the sheriff, apparently was able to get out on his own somehow because he's been arrested again, and there's now a different judge who refuses to give him bail. Tell us a little bit about that. How did this guy get out?
I actually think he posted bail.
Okay, yeah, he posted bail, but I thought that they weren't going to let him out as long as, because the judge's condition was that he be put on electronic monitoring.
You can't stop bail.
Oh, okay.
If bail is there and he posts it, he's out.
Well,
Nothing the sheriff can do about that one.
Well, I looked up this thing that said that they got a call that somebody was going through mailboxes. So they go out in the area and they find that he's got like a special file key to get into the mailboxes, and they found some other things on the guy as well. So they arrested him again. He's got another 27 charges. They found him with a shaved mail key, fraudulent ID, other people's credit cards, meth on him, and when they call it, he was going through the mailboxes at an apartment complex.
Huh, Dave? Yeah, big surprise.
So now he's got another 27 charges against him, and this judge is not giving him bail.
Wow, it only took 37 felonies. No, and then he might be a good judge. There are some good judges left in America, but and the statistics with what McMahill has done, he's done this to 4 different judges in the Las Vegas area. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just the one judge. Yeah. He's done it to 4 different judges on 11 different inmates. Why? Because he's concerned about public safety. And these judges, some reporter needs to ask these judges, why do you keep releasing these people, these career criminals, on law-abiding citizens? Why do you keep doing that? We want to know.
Yeah, that was my question. I look at this and it's like, okay, so you're a judge and, you decide that you're going to put this guy on electronic release, and the sheriff comes back and says, well, wait a minute, this guy, I don't think we can handle this guy on electronic monitoring. Wouldn't you have the humility to look at this and say, maybe I got this wrong. Let me reconsider that and take that as an opportunity so that you don't have this on your record in case you let this guy go and he kills somebody. But he didn't do that. Instead, he fought against all of this, and the guy got released anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So I really want everyone on your program, Dave, to look at this sheriff and what did he do. Mm-hmm. Okay. This is where the solution for America lies. Sheriffs doing the right thing for the right reason in defending the American people. This is what CSPOA does. This is why we want every one of your listeners, your supporters here on your program, go to our website and become a part of the CSPOA. Oh, you're not a sheriff? Oh, you're not a deputy? Great, because we formed this organization for you. And that's why we have the CSPOA posse that you can become a member of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a little fee, $11 a month or $8.50 a month, whatever, if you go annually or just monthly. But folks, this is the greatest solution since sliced bread. And I should say since the militia was formed. Yeah. The American people, Jefferson warned us that we have got to be involved. And he said the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Folks, we provide that opportunity to you 100% for you to be involved in the holy cause of liberty and taking back our Constitution and our constitutional republic. Yes. Join us at cspoa.org.
And that's the key thing. I mean, like I said, it's hard to get that kind of information locally as to what's happening. Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association helps you to get that kind of information, the kind of questions that you can take around as a group of you, can meet with a sheriff and ask him those types of questions. John Birch Society's got voter rolls for all the state legislators and things like that. So there are some organizations that are focused on establishing change at the local level where you can get that kind of information, and it's very important to work with those. I like what you had to say about your organization here. You said it's an organization that brings citizens, law enforcement, sheriffs, and elected officials together, solution-oriented, taking our country back in a peaceful and effective way at the local and the state level. That is the key, because I think it's just too far gone at the federal level. And the key thing,
I do too.
The federal level is so far gone that what they do is not only they're doing the wrong thing, but they're bribing people with fiat printed money to do the wrong thing at the state and local level. It's like
that's the Southern Poverty Law Center, bribing people to help them make hate bigger and better.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Talk a little bit about what happened with the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And because I played a clip where there was a couple of Fox reporters who were laughing about it. They said, yeah, they just got a couple small ladies over there holding the door open for people. That's what the security is here. They just couldn't believe it. And of course, the guy who put the manifesto out, the alleged shooter, was mocking it as well. What's your take on that as somebody who's run security for things like that?
Well, yes, I have. As a matter of fact, the last time I did it personally and with my sheriff's office was when Pat Buchanan came to Arizona in 1996.
Hmm.
And I worked with the Secret Service that was in charge of his event, and we coordinated with them, and they coordinated with us. Maybe the current Secret Service needs to do that more with local sheriffs.
Hmm.
Now, look, they had local police. They obviously had Washington, D.C. PD there and others. But where did the security break down? The minute this Cole Allen got on the train, there's no security on trains. There's no metal detectors. There's nobody checking luggage. There's nobody checking what you have. People could be going and bringing bombs on trains, and the train people wouldn't know any different. What has to happen there is what I wish would happen at the airports, that the airlines and the train companies would do their own security. Quit waiting for the federal government to take care of your problem.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, when
they
cut off the money,
about funding.
That's right. When they cut off the money, there were several airports where they basically do the same TSA stuff. And I look at it, and I've said my opinion is it's security theater, because whenever they test these guys, they fail like 90% of the time. I said, so what you take away from that is that there's not really a threat at the airports and airplanes. And of course, we had a case that basically the TSA said that in their internal communications. There was a guy who was challenging the body scanners, and as part of his discovery, he was able to get that. Now, of course, when they posted it on pacer.gov, which is where they put the lawsuits, they wanted to redact that, but they made a mistake and they put up the unredacted lawsuit. And then they discovered it later in the day, and then they put up the redacted version, took the other one down. And we were able to get both copies of that. And so we could see what they didn't want us to see. And so they said in 2011, there's no threats to airports or airplanes. And that was at the same time that they were threatening to make Texas a no-fly zone because they were going to stop the body pat-downs of children and things like that. So it is kind of interesting. When I talked about it, I said, here's a situation. It's almost like a joint session of Congress where you got the president, the vice president, and the third person in the line of succession, the Speaker of the House. They were all there in that one spot, and yet there's no security there. Isn't that interesting?
I was just talking about this. Who's number 4? Is that Secretary of State?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I'd have to look that up too, because I can't remember. I know that, but I knew it once, but I forgot it. So.
Maybe Rubio was there too. I don't know.
Well, he is Secretary of State.
Yeah. Who knows?
So, yeah, I think he's
a big party.
He's fourth in line. And I don't know who the Senate Majority Leader is. I don't know where he is on the list. Mm-hmm. You would think he would be right after Johnson, but I don't think he is. But anyway, the other part of the security lapse is that he's allowed to check into a hotel, and again, there's no body scanning there either. Yeah,
I mentioned that because when I went to Bilderberg in Copenhagen, we knew which hotel it was going to be, and we booked into that hotel a couple of days earlier, hoping that we could be there at the hotel where these guys are so we could get some pictures that are close up. Sure. Turned out we didn't need to. That year, Bilderberg, they had it at a hotel that was right on a main road, and the furthest they got anybody away was across the street on a 4-lane road that went through there. So we were able to see everybody that was coming and going, which was really unusual for Bilderberg. But we went in the day before they were supposed to meet to get our hotel rooms, and they already had the place covered with people in uniform and scanners and all this other kind of stuff, and they bum rushed us right out the door when we went in there. And yet here's a situation where you got the top 3 office holders are all going to be meeting there the next day, and this guy's allowed to stay. They don't hassle him at all.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. And we were talking about this before the interview. I said, yeah, this is the same hotel where Hinckley took a shot at, actually hit Reagan, John Hinckley did. And I said, maybe what they'll do is have the next White House Correspondents' Dinner at Dealey Plaza. I don't know.
and James Brady, for whom the Brady bill was named, that I sued and won. And I do want to recall when I was at the U.S. Supreme Court, he was there in his wheelchair. He took a shot to the head. and 4 of them were shot at that time. A Secret Service, a police officer, Reagan, who they didn't even know was shot until he was on his way away from there in limousine. And then James Brady got it the worst, and he was confined to a wheelchair after that, but he was still really sharp. And I shook his hand at the hearing where we were suing his bill. And it was really his wife's bill. He's a good man, and I've always liked him. And I thanked him for his service to Ronald Reagan and to our country. And he said something very gracious to me. He said, "Sheriff, I really admire you for what you've done, and you standing for what you believe in." And that really meant a lot to me, coming from him.
Yeah, it's a tragedy, but we have to look at the larger principles that are involved here, and that's really what you were talking about. It wasn't simply about his personal tragedy, and so often we see that it becomes a cause celeb, and it's all organized around something bad that happened to one person, and it is not. It doesn't really undo what happened to that person to set up a really bad law that's going to cause a lot of people to be harmed.
His wife, Sarah Brady, was the one that exploited him for the gun control movement known as the Brady Bill, and she should have been ashamed of herself, but she wasn't. And no, so I didn't like her at all, but I really liked James Brady.
Yeah. Well, you said when we're talking about presidential assassinations, you said you've been to Dealey Plaza
twice.
What was your impression of it? I've been there as well.
The first time I went there, I have to tell you, I was with my son, and he was like 18 years old, about to graduate from high school. And I took him through it and showed him the museum and showed him the theory of the magic bullet and the pristine bullet and all that. and he laughed. He laughed at me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it worked for Arlen Specter. I mean, they elevated him up to be a senator for life, basically. He got paid off for putting forward the magic bullet theory.
Yeah, well, and not only that, the Warren Commission report. If you want a good laugh, read that. It's another laughable thing. Yeah. But the main thing that I thought when I was there is how spooky it was, because it looked exactly like it did back in 1963 at the assassination. It was, everything was the same. The picket fence, the grassy knoll, the book depository, where it actually happened now, like I said, is a museum, and it kind of gives the evidence of all of it. And I thought every bit of it was like walking through history, walking through time. And it was amazing. The thing that we've included in my new book that's going to be out in about a week is Dorothy Kilgallen. I'm sure you remember her.
Yeah, the name's very familiar. What was it? What's My Line or something? Yeah.
Yeah, she was on. She was a regular on What's My Line. Before that, she became very famous about a worldwide race, and I can't remember what they were racing for, but she was involved in this race, and she was also a reporter. And after she was in that race, she gained a lot of notoriety, and she was invited to be on What's My Line all the time. Well, that was a pretty good movie. A game show on TV back in the late 50s, early 60s. Yeah. I think the host was Gary Moore.
Yeah, and they would guess people's profession when they come out. They'd ask them questions,
Right. And so she took it upon herself to do an investigation on the Kennedy assassination. And right as soon as it happened, and she started, and she was extremely relentless and dedicated to it. And she was good at what she did. And she actually got an interview with Jack Ruby, who murdered Lee Harvey Oswald. And so she's really getting into this. And then, of course, she ends up dying, and they don't even know how. They said it was an accidental death, but it was exactly how Marilyn Monroe supposedly killed herself. And we don't believe she did. In the book, we bring out what really happened to Marilyn Monroe was murder. And what really happened to Dorothy Kilgallen was also murder. Because, and I'll tell you one reason why, David, you're not going to believe this. So she has amassed all these reports and evidence about the so-called assassination, the inside job that it was on JFK. So she accidentally died, right? according to police reports and what everybody said,
Mm-hmm.
then why was all her evidence missing from the scene of her death?
Wow. Yeah.
They never found it again. No one ever did a criminal investigation. But all they said is, well, that's coincidental and weird. All of the evidence that she had amassed and all the notes she took, reports she wrote, were all gone, missing,
Wow.
stolen.
Wow. Yeah, that
From
was
obviously the murderer.
Yeah, that was obviously a seminal event for a lot of Americans, changing their opinions of government. I remember, it was around Thanksgiving that we all got together with a family. I was only 8 years old, and people were watching TV live as Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald. And I remember all the adults in the room were like, okay, I think we know what's going on here now with this, not a lone shooter scenario that's happening with that. And that was kind of a seminal moment for me, actually, as well. So,
Well, another thing that I brought up ever since I was at Dealey Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
So if Lee Harvey Oswald is up on the 5th floor and he's looking down, when the president's motorcade turned right on Houston and is going northbound, right towards the book depository, straight, a perpendicular, straight line right towards Oswald, supposedly holding the gun. Why didn't he shoot him then?
Yeah.
Nothing was in his way, clear shot, clear path, and he has this white shirt on the president that he could have taken that shot. Oh, no. He waits for him to turn down Elm, and now he's behind trees. He's at a weird 45-degree angle now. The other one was straight on. The first shot was the easiest one, and he missed the entire car.
Yeah. Wow.
Then when he's much farther away, and a very difficult shot, he somehow shoots him in the front part of the right side of his head.
Yeah.
And he's behind him at a 45-degree angle. The best shot he could have possibly got would have been right here on the right rear of his head. Oh no, he shoots him there. Wow, talk about magic bullets.
Yeah.
And a magic gun and a bunch of lies. And that's what it was. And then by the time that the body of President Kennedy was taken back to Bethesda, Maryland at the naval base there, his brain was missing. Why? Where did the brain go? And so you have to know that the brain, more than anything, more than the skull ballistics that the bullet caused of the hole in his head, and a big chunk of his skull was back on the trunk, and that's what Jackie was in her fit of panic, was crawling back on there to get a piece of his skull and bring it back to him. She was trying to make him better. And of course she was out of her head with panic. And so the key component here is the brain could have shown the exact trajectory of the bullet. So they had to get rid of that evidence, and they did.
Wow. Yeah, it's such a horrible situation, and what it showed us about our own government is horrible as well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I just played a clip this week of Glenn Beck talking to Kash Patel. He says, yeah, I've seen the Kennedy stuff and everything. You're not even asking the right questions. And I can't tell you what I've seen. It's like, I am so sick and tired of a government that keeps everything secret from us in the name of national security, that lies to us so obviously, and they think we don't know that they're lying.
Right.
That really has become the hallmark of our government, hasn't it?
Right. And they did it even at 9/11. The FBI said, well, we hurried up and got rid of all the evidence because we wanted to bring closure to this horrible, horrible situation. We want to help heal the American people. That's not your job.
Yeah.
Your job is to investigate.
That's right.
We'll worry about being bringing closure with our clergymen. But you're not our counselor. You're not our family counselor. You're not our national counselor. And I'm fed up with government that thinks they have to take care of me and help me through a hard time. We hired you to investigate, not not throw all the evidence in the bottom of the ocean.
Well, just look at what recently came out about the Epstein Ranch, the Zorro Ranch, large ranch they had out there. They just reopened that case because they said the FBI came in and said to the state and local investigators, "We've got this. We're going to take care of this," and then they just shut it down. And when that came out in this recent one of these recent document releases, they opened it up again. The state legislature said they appropriated millions of dollars for them to do their own investigation because the FBI shut down. And I've seen this so many times. I saw it with Flight 800, where there was a question as to whether or not the plane was shot down accidentally as part of the naval exercises that happened. And there'd been something that was exactly the same type of thing that happened with Iran. And they had been conducting U.S. naval operations there, and they accidentally shot down a consumer jet. And they compensated people in Iran for that, but they denied it here. And you had people who had been involved as far as air traffic controllers. They had documents. The FBI went around to their house and confiscated the evidence and then just shut the investigation down.
And if you ask me, Dave, they're pretty close to doing the same with these 11 or 12 scientists that have been murdered and kidnapped or both since 2022. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I don't get this at all, that they waited till the 11th scientist was murdered to start an investigation, and Comer announced, "Oh, we better start a congressional investigation." If I want a good investigation, that's the last place I want investigating.
Yeah, we've seen that over and over again. How with Trey Gowdy and Benghazi, and we've seen Jim Jordan do dog and pony shows over and over again, and nothing ever comes of any of that stuff. It's just grandstanding is what it is.
Yeah, and Trey Gowdy, I mean, when they discovered that back in like 2015, that DEA agents down in Colombia were having sex parties with the cartels, and they had a big hearing about that. Trey Gowdy, he was really pointing his finger and yelling at the director of the DEA, the first female director ever. And the only thing that happened after they found out that this really did happen, and they were taking no action, no disciplinary action on these criminals, these DEA crimes. Having sex parties with the cartels is about 5 different felonies per event, and they were doing it for years. And so not only were none of them disciplined, none of them were charged criminally, and some of them got reassigned. Oh, and then this is the really thing that will take care of it. The female director of the FBI resigned. I mean, of the DEA resigned. That's all that happened. You can look that up, folks. Don't believe me. Look it up. DEA sex crimes in Colombia, and you'll get all sorts of information about it.
Well, I laugh because it's just so far over the top. It's just absurd. It's just crazy. You can't
typical government. Typical government doing nothing about real serious criminal activity by the people we're paying. They're supposed to be arresting and going after the cartels. Instead, the cartels are providing sex parties for all these DEA agents for years. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just look at the fact that it's the U.S. government that created the CIA created the crack cocaine epidemic, and so the whole thing has not really worked out too well for us. But talking about the Constitution, Sheriff Mack, I say this all the time. We have 2 amendments in the Constitution that testify to the fact that the government doesn't have any constitutional authority to prohibit anything like that. And so we had to have a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol. Why did they go to all that trouble? Well, because back at that point in time, people actually tried to stay within the Constitution. We just don't care about that anymore.
No. And obviously they don't care about the Constitution, or there wouldn't be 20,000 gun control laws. That obviously make gun control against the law. The Second Amendment makes gun control in America against the law.
That's right.
So what does Congress do? Form the BATF that can monitor every day, every citizen who has a gun.
Yeah, that's right. Talk about your book here. It's called The Democrat Murder of America, Demagoguery in the First Degree.
Don't you love that title?
Yeah, that's about to come out, isn't it? Yeah, that's a great title.
Well, it should be the ebook should be out in about a week.
Okay.
And we keep getting more we have to add to the book, like what Virginia did We already had
Oh,
Virginia
yeah.
on about what they did in their election, electing an attorney general who supported killing his opponent and his children. That actually happened.
Hmm.
But of course, he won anyway because Democrats don't care about violence.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
celebrate violence, just
Mhm.
like they did when Charlie Kirk was murdered.
Mhm.
And even now, they're celebrating the recent assassination on Trump. What are they celebrating? Great, let's do more gun control. That's all
Mhm.
that meant to them.
Mhm.
You
Do
know,
you, do you think
and
that
they,
Trump will go along with that? Because, I mean, we did see in his first administration, he had
yeah.
Dianne Feinstein right there next to him, and he had, what's the guy that's running for re-election as a senator in Texas? I forget his name. Cornyn. Yeah.
Cornyn.
So the two of them were sitting on either side of him, and he's saying, well, fortunately, there's things that I can do with a pen right here. And it's like, no, you can't. You can't amend the Constitution with a pen. And, so I don't know. It seems like he's amenable to that. What do you think?
I certainly pray that he's not, because gun control only affects the law-abiding citizen and helps arm even better the gangs and the cartels and the Bloods and the Crips and the Tren de Agua.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've got to make sure that we understand why the founding fathers put the Second Amendment in the Constitution in the first place. And it wasn't for duck hunting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was to fulfill the part of the Declaration of Independence that says it is the right of the people, it is the duty of the people to throw off such government and establish new guards for our happiness. No, it's gotten way off, but to make sure that everyone gets this, you've got to be involved in the process of restoring freedom to America. And what's going on right now is the utter destruction. And yes, okay, are there some Republicans who are problems? Yeah, but most of them were really acting. A lot of them are Democrats who switch parties to try to control the other party from within.
Yeah.
And then you have the rhinos who say they're Republicans, but they're really not. And so it is really the Democrat Party. And people say this uniparty. Okay, I get it. There's a few things that they do similarly and agree on. One is national debt. They both cause that. Okay? I get that.
Yeah.
Both of them help fund Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
The Democrats way more than the Republicans, but yes, some Republicans did it too. And then the utter corruption of Washington, D.C., that's both of them.
Yeah, that's right.
But again, I will still put more blame on the Democrats.
That's why, I look at this and it's like we really have to do something at the state and local level. As a matter of fact, there was something
That's
I thought was really
solution left.
That's right. It was Elon Musk who said you got to hand it to George Soros. He understands how to do this. He's spending a lot of money on attorneys general at the very state
County
level,
attorney,
and also at
DA.
the DAs and various places, putting millions of dollars in these races and getting the kind of people he wants in there so they can just turn people loose. And he said he's getting so much more bang for the buck by operating at the state and local level. When you look at how many voters there are and how much you can get, the leverage you get for your money, he said it makes a lot of sense. And so just from a pragmatic standpoint, that's really where we should start to try to refocus our understanding. We need to understand what the national and the global agendas are, because those are going to come at us. But the way that we stop it is where the rubber meets the road, and that is at the state and local level. Because as you showed with your lawsuit, we can nullify. That's the middle road there, is to nullify these bad laws and to refuse to be commandeered by them. And so we can shut that down. And so the local sheriff and the elections for judges, those are so important. The juries are vitally important, and we've lost jury trials. Pretty much people have given up on jury trials because that has also been rigged. That needs a lot of reform. Because if you're going to let the lawyers pick the jurors, that's it. It's kind of like redistricting.
We need educated juries. We need educated citizens. And if you're not educated, it's going to be easy to be manipulated by the attorneys there, including the judge.
That's right. But what we do, when they pick the juries, it's kind of like this battle that's going on in all these different states about the gerrymandering. If they can go in and pick the voters, they know they're going to win if they do that. And that's what they do with the jury trials. They go in and pick the voters on the trial. And so there's some room for reform there, but people are not even talking about that yet.
So anyway, I'm proud that our case stopped the Brady Bill movement, because Howard Metzenbaum actually introduced Brady Bill 2 just 2 weeks after I filed. And at that time, I was completely by myself. I was the only sheriff in the entire United States doing this lawsuit out of 3,087. It didn't really change too much because only 6 others joined me in the lawsuit. So there's 7 of us doing this out of 3,086. So the percentage didn't really change that much, but it helped save the case. And I have to tell you, when Brady Bill 2 was introduced, it got stalled in committee because they brought up that there was a sheriff suing on Brady Bill 1. How can we promulgate the second one when the first one's in court?
Mm-hmm.
And so they put a stall on that one. They put a hold on it. And then when we won, Brady Bills 2, 3, 4, and 5 never came up again. By the time the 5th one would have been passed, the Second Amendment would have been completely destroyed. And this is about the 3rd time. It was the first time, but there's been 2 times since where sheriffs have actually stood strong for the Second Amendment. There's been 3 times in recent history since 1997 where the sheriffs of this country have literally saved the Second Amendment from the federal government and whatever administration was in there at the time. It happened under Clinton, it happened under Obama, and it happened under Biden. Thank you, sheriffs of America. Folks, if you want to be a part of that movement, join us at cspoa.org.
Yes, that's very important. And what you mentioned is really important. We talk all the time about precedents and the importance of precedents. And there it is in your case, because you had the case at trial, and then even more so because you won, that set up a precedent. And so in that particular case, we got a good precedent that is being set, but usually we don't see that. Usually it's going the other way. So it's nice to see a good precedent being set for once, and I really do thank you for doing that. And again, folks, go to cspoa.org, and is that where they can find your book, Sheriff Mack?
Yeah, I have other books. I've written 7 books, but my new book will be on there very shortly. Yes. Okay,
great. And you can join as part of the posse, and they've got an information kit that Sheriff Mack and I have talked about in previous interviews, a set of questions. And it's a great thing. If you got a bunch of friends, who have this questionnaire from the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officer Association, you can get a meeting with a sheriff and you can ask them questions about, give them this questionnaire to see where they stand on some of these issues. That'll give you more information than you're ever going to get out of any of these websites that will go through and ask them a question. These questions are a lot more thoughtful and probing questions. So you might be able to get, if you got several people with you, as we've talked about in the past with Sheriff Mack, usually they'll let you talk to them. You say, we're a committee here from such and such a jurisdiction. We're from this neighborhood. And, oh, well, okay, we got a group of people here that I can talk to if I...
And every Wednesday we have training for the posse members. So CSPOA posse webinar is every Wednesday. So it'll be tomorrow. Hopefully you'll join and be ready to go with us tomorrow. But we help train you how to work with your sheriff.
That's great. That's great. Well, thank you so much, Sheriff Mack. It's always great talking to you. Love the history. It was really fascinating today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you too. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At cspoa.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit cspoa.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's cspoa.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
Common man. They created Common Core to dumb down our children. They created Common Pass to track and control us. Their Commons Project to make sure the commoners own nothing. And the communist future. They see the common man as simple, unsophisticated, ordinary. But each of us has worth and dignity created in the image of God. That is what we have in common. That is what they want to take away. Their most powerful weapons are isolation, deception, intimidation. They desire to know everything about us while they hide everything from us. It's time to turn that around and expose what they want to hide. Please share the information and links you'll find at thedavidknightshow.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. If you can't support us financially, please keep us in your prayers. thedavidknightshow.com.